Aquarian Music Witch, the podcast.
I don't know. Man. I laugh so that I don't cry, but it is brutal and it is ugly. And it is also addicting and intoxicating in the way that meth is addicting and intoxicating.
What do you mean? What is it?
Just everything that's happening. Like, we're all addicted to it. You know what I mean? Like,
it being that drama of the news kind of feed.
Yeah, like
it's very addictive. I think it's possible to operate like in a way that's not addicted toward it.
Yeah, but you have to be conscious about it.
You have to be very conscious about it.
Right,
absolutely.
And that's what I'm saying, and that's where I'm saying it's addictive.
It is addictive.
Because you can scroll for hours and watch an endless supply of videos, and
and get your dopamine rush for saying one thing instead of doing anything. Yeah.
I mean, the dopamine hits that are retrieved by people who feel like they are morally superior are just like a whole nother conversation. But, and like, I don't personally get any dopamine hits because I try to be very intentional about the things that I say. So, like, my knee-jerk reaction coming from a childhood of severe trauma is to be as vindictive and mean and cutting as I can be towards these people who are saying unbearably stupid shit to me. And I've had a lot of them where I'm like, let's dance. Like, I can do this. 13-year-old me is sitting inside of my body going, let's go, bitch. Like, we got this. We can fucking do this. We can fucking take him. We can fucking take him down. Like, let's fucking go. And my 35-year-old brain is sitting there going,
yeah, there's a statistic about the most serial killers are cancers. So what that says to me, all my cancer friends, I'm lucky. We're all lucky, but you're not.
Oh, yeah. No, because
that's my joke about that.
I'm fucking mean. I am mean when I want to be. Oh, my God. I am vicious. And, like, that's another thing, you know, like, I've joked with a lot of Jews, like, we have a real dark sense of humor. Like, it is, and it's something that, like, other non-Jews have clocked about me, and I personally always chalked it up to the dead dad, because, like, that has also made me very dark. You know, like, I watched my dad snuff it, so the amount of, like, dead parent jokes and, like, real dark jokes that I've made in my life, I've always just chalked up to the dead dad. But, like, no, like, there's a darkness within the Jewish people that I personally love because, like, we've been through so much shit that, like, if you can't laugh, you're not gonna make it, man. Like, you're not gonna make it. You're not gonna survive. So we have found a way to make some real dark shit kind of funny. Like, and it's not, I don't know that it's necessarily the healthiest, but we survive somehow.
Harm reduction?
Right? Yeah, like, I absolutely, like, I don't think it's the healthiest way to navigate your shit, but we can't always be perfect. We can certainly try.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's gonna be times where, like, I gotta make that fucking dead dad joke, you know, and you don't get to say shit to me about it, because I'm the one with a dead dad, you know, so fuck off. And, you know, like, I don't even know where I was going with that, but, like, there's something about it that just, I don't know, it helps you survive. And I know that there are a lot of different demographics who have different versions of real dark shit. And I've had non-Jews be like, you are so dark, man. Like, you make, some of the jokes that you make, like, I don't get it. And I'm like, yeah, I know.
Transmutation.
I don't know what to tell you. Like, I've got ancestors in here making dark jokes.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
In this body. Like, you don't have that. Like, you're fucking white bread. You're from France. Like, no, like, you're fine. Just go smoke a cigarette. Like, have a good, just take a load off. Like, you know, but, like, my ex in particular was like, she would always sit there and look at me and be like, I don't get it. And I'm like, I know. That's why we're exes now. Like, it's, you know, it's just like, She doesn't get it, you
That's
know?
a
Like,
shame.
people don't get it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know. You gotta do what you gotta do to survive this shit, because it is fucking, it is just all grotesque. And if you spend too much time in it, you stop being able to see the truth. You stop being able to see, if you spend, I have now, my brain has circled back to how I got here. So, like, if you spend all of your time doom scrolling and seeing endless images of, it doesn't even matter what side, quote unquote, side of this you're on, whether you're on the Israeli side and you're scrolling through and you're seeing an endless supply of people being raped, of body parts being cut off, of people being burned and people being blown up, or thinking about the hostages and what they're fucking going through right now. Like, if you spend too much time there, or if you're on the other side, on the Palestinian side, and you're spending all of your time doom scrolling through
babies covered in dust
and
holding their brother's arm, some horrible
babies
shit.
dead because they're covered in dust and they were pulled out of the rubble.
And real story, I mean, it's horrible.
These are real stories.
And that's what war looks like, and we don't have usually historically war in front of our faces like this.
That's the other component to this. Like, that's like a totally real,
like, psychologically
very intense aspect of this, which is, I think, a big part of why this is being categorized as a genocide. And we'll come back to that. But, like, if you spend all of your time looking at these things, it just becomes trauma porn. And it just becomes this notion of, this is so real, this is so real, this is so real, and now this is my entire world, and now this is my entire life, and I have nothing outside of this. And that's not helpful.
And people did it intentionally too. There was something really, there was a specific turning point I noticed on TikTok where, pursuant to October 7th, like a week later, there was people being like, witness the genocide, like, you must look. And it was like, no, I don't need to look at everything in order to learn what's happening. And what are you doing? You're literally brainwashing me like a cult. You're telling me that privilege be damned, that's something to feel guilty for, and I need to just, like, what is that movie where they pry the guy's eyes open and just watch? No, I don't. That doesn't teach me new things about more people that died.
Well, and I remember, like, right after October 7th, like, I was inundated with those videos, of what happened on October 7th, and I watched them. I watched every one. I watched every single one, but I didn't share it. I have a following, and I could have shared it. I could have put all 3,500 of my followers through that with me, but I didn't. And I didn't because I know several of my followers personally who have histories with very traumatic, brutal sexual assaults. And I did not share it thinking of them, because I was like, they don't need to see it. I don't have a history with sexual violence on my own person. I have a history of sexual violence in the context of people that I am extremely close to, partners, best friends, family, who have been sexually assaulted. And so that affects me, but it's not something that I have physically and mentally dealt with from my own body.
The bodily trauma you carry.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I intentionally did not share that because I didn't want to re-traumatize them. I didn't want to be responsible for that. So I didn't share it. And honestly, I can't say for sure if I regret that decision or not, because there are so many people who have denied to my face the sexual violence that was experienced by my Jewish family. People have denied it to me, where I'm like, what are you talking about? What do you mean that didn't happen? Because these people are Muslim, you believe that they would never, because it goes against their religion? I'm sorry, have you met a Christian? Do you think rape is written into the Bible as, like, a great thing? Are you high? What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
I mean, a lot of stark differences in what even basic reality is also contribute to this complete, like, I've never in my life, and I've said this before, and it remains true since October to now, it's now March, I've never in my life, I don't think, had such a caustic, anytime there's ever any attempt to have any conversation about this topic, there is no way forward almost, because it's such a stark difference in fundamental realities about things in a way that I have never really, I don't think, experienced. I don't know what about, maybe that's where I am in my life.
I've never experienced anything like this either.
I don't think I don't even think with Trump, I don't think in any political thing ever, it's ever been so locked down.
Never. And see, what's weird for me is while I was raised away from my Jewishness, I genuinely believe that there is a big part of me that is inhabited by my elders.
Yeah.
Because, and I say this for specific reasons, I remember vividly when Trump announced that he was going to run in the last election. And I remember going, oh shit. That's not good.
Mm-hmm.
That is very bad. That is going to be very, very bad for a lot of people. That is as bad as it could go. Oh shit. Because and Pence was his running mate. And I was like, oh shit.
Double shit.
Oh shit. And I remember talking to my mom, and my mom is not Jewish. And my mom was like, this is the fucking best thing that could have happened. And I was like, what are you talking about?
What does she mean?
I was like, what are you talking about? And she was like, he's an idiot. There's no way.
So many, yeah.
There's no way he's gonna win.
Yeah.
It's to the point, honey, we're fine. I am going to vote Republican in the primaries to secure his being the presidential candidate.
Oh God.
And I was like, do not do that. There was a part of my body, and I don't know who was controlling it, because I was only, in my mid-20s at the time. I wasn't wise enough to be aware of how all of this shit was going to unfold, but there was a part of me that was like, I know exactly how this is going to pan out. He's going to win, and this is going to be a fucking nightmare. Don't do that. Mm-hmm. And I got real serious with her real quick, and I was like, I swear to God, if you contribute to this, you and me, we're going to go through a new bout of us not talking,
mm-hmm.
because that is a level of ignorance that I will not tolerate. Don't you dare. And she was like, you are real intense right now. And I was like, yeah, I don't even know where it's coming from. But like, no. When October 7th happened, I had about 12 hours to grieve that night, basically. And then the next morning I woke up to DMs being like, what about isms of Palestinians? And I was like, listen, I have been all about the Palestinian cause for like longer than you've known.
Longer than
Palestine
anyone has known it even existed on a map.
It's unfortunately technically not even on a map, but
not
like
this time.
You know, it hasn't been, but like
it has been on and off, or depending on the map,
based on British mandates.
Okay,
but we can get back into that.
Sure. Don't let me distract you from.
But after October 7th happened, I watched as Israel began its retaliation. And I was like, and I remember saying to my Jewish friends, this is going to be bad for us. The fact that Israel is retaliating is going to be very bad for Jews globally. It's going to be bad. Mm-hmm. And I remember multiple friends being like, you're crazy. Like, this is totally justified. And I was like, that's not the point. The point isn't justified or not justified. The point is, this is going to be bad.
Mm-hmm.
And we are all going to suffer. We are all going to be held accountable. And we are going to lose.
And you weren't taken by surprise when that started to happen?
Not at all. Not at all. Completely saw it coming from October 8th. I don't think I saw it coming on October 7th because I was fucking devastated. But from the minute I was like, oh. And again, I don't think that it's my own mental awareness. I am mentally aware. I am very tuned in to the things happening around me, to the people the groups that I have been a part of. I'm tuned into them, and I expected the left to be a little crazy. This was like a little more than I anticipated. I really did not. I mean, what has happened on the left is like, like, I feel like Wile E. Coyote. But like, you know, like, is an anvil really gonna make me sing faster? Like, yes, Wiley, it fucking is. Like, let go of the anvil, bitch. Like, what the fuck? You know, like, but that's how I feel. But like, I remember looking at this, and I remember saying to people, this is gonna be bad, guys. Like, batten down the hatches, kind of bad. And I have never lived through anything like this, so I can't say that it's my own mental cognition that got me there. There's gotta be an ancestor in here going, oh, sweetie, baby, honeypot, you haven't lived through this. We have.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be aware. Prepare yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's nothing in my life that's prepared me for this. Nothing. And I have looked real gay since it was super uncool to look real gay.
Yeah.
And nothing has prepared me for this.
Do you want to share some like specific experience? Because I mean, I know I have a couple of stories of things that I've been very disgusted by people I once respected. In terms of just straight up anti-Semitism under the guise of whatever this other conversation is. And I'm deeply disappointed. If you don't want to go into it, it's fine. I'm sure it's
met with a lot of anti-Semitism. I've been told that I have been indoctrinated by Zionism, by Israel, by whatever. I've been told that because of my Jewishness, because of the assumptions that they make about me, because I'm Jewish, because I'm a practicing Jew, that I must have grown up with that worldview, that I must have been indoctrinated in synagogue for the Israeli cause, that I like, and that's totally something that's been in synagogues forever, like for, you know, since Israel became a state. Like, yeah, it's totally been upheld in synagogue that like, no, Israel is like integral to our survival. Like, that is a thing that has been told to Jews across the country, across the world. And for the first time in my life, I believe it. Like, I heard that, you know, in college. But I didn't believe it because I was an American Jew. What the fuck do I need Israel for? I'm in the United States. I'm fucking fine. Nobody gives a shit that I'm Jewish. Nobody cares. And nobody cared until they could blame everything on me. Now. They can blame everything on me now. And, like, it wasn't until this happened that I was like, oh, shit. No, we kind of do need Israel. Now, that is, like, one component of why the existence of Israel is important in the region that it's in, right? Like, you can't take Israel and put it wherever the fuck for myriad different reasons. But one of them being the realities of the IRI, the Islamic Republic of Iran. That is an important context. But again, like, that wasn't your question. So, like, I'm just going to leave that there as, like, a little tidbit. If you don't know what the IRI is, if you don't know what they're about, like, please go fucking Google it, because, like, it's fucking there for you, man. Like, I really encourage you to do just, like, a modicum of research about any of this. But for me, like, I didn't believe that we needed Israel until now. And I had never, other than, like, my uncle making a Ixnay on the Uj joke at fucking Thanksgiving, I hadn't really experienced any hate for my Jewishness, mainly because, like, I mean, I look more gay than I look Jewish. So, like, people were more focused on that. You know, like, I look like a fucking traditional Sephardic Jew, which, if you don't know what that is, again, please go Google it. It's like the stereotypical Jew. You know, when you think of a Jew, you think of me. You know, when you think of, like, a lighter skin, I get real dark in the summer, like, real dark, and I have a very olive skin. I'm super dark haired. My eyes are dark. My eyebrows are huge. Like, I've got a cute little nose, but my mom always says I got her nose and not my dad's. Like, you know, so, like, she was like, no, your nose is perfect. And, like, she made a point to tell me that multiple times as a kid, to the point where I was like,
as opposed to
what? I was like, I don't understand. What's wrong with my nose? And she was like, nothing. It's perfect. You're lucky. And I was like, huh?
That's packed.
Right. But, like, I didn't clock any of these things as anti-Semitic until now. Like, you know, like, it wasn't, like, it just didn't register that being anti-Semitic was a problem, which is part of the problem. So anti-Semitism is the oldest form of hate that exists on the planet because you're welcome, world. We gave you your fucking religions. So, like, y'all cherry-picked you from our religion and took it and did whatever you wanted to do with it. Fine. You didn't like all of our religion, so you took some of it. Okay. I have no problem with that. Go nuts.
Yeah.
You want to do that? Go crazy. I don't give a shit. But, like, Jews gave everyone, I mean, for, you know, as far as organized monotheistic religions go, I would never dream to claim that we, like, gave Hindus their religion. Like, no, I'm not an asshole, but, like...
But the Christians...
But, like, the Christians, y'all
throw them under the bus, yeah.
my shit.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly
fucking
right.
cherry-picked my shit. The Old Testament...
Exactly right.
It's the fucking
First
Torah,
five books
bitch!
are the Torah.
Like,
well, yep.
It's the fucking Torah!
Yep.
Like,
That's
fuck
true.
off!
No,
like,
yeah.
I'm really angry, man. Like, I just, that was a very dramatic,
No, I mean,
reactive
it's
thing
okay
for me
to be...
say, and I'm trying not to be, but, like, I'm failing.
It's
so,
okay
like,
to
it
be
is what it
angry,
is.
though.
But it's just the hypocrisy. The hypocrisy is what's getting me on every front. Like, if you wanna cherry pick my shit and not be an asshole about it, go crazy. But don't sit there and act like you have any idea what we've been through as a people, what I've been through as a person, as an individual, as a Jew, as a queer, as a whatever. Don't act like you have any idea what any of this means to any of us. Palestinians included, because you fucking don't. Like, you fucking don't. And, like, you know, I'm sitting here watching the world unravel and watching how all of these things are interconnected in ways that are so nefarious and that 99.999% of people don't register.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really horrifying. Like, I remember looking at... I intentionally studied the Holocaust in middle school. By myself. I went to the library. I found out that the Holocaust happened. And I went to the library every day after school for 3 hours. And I sat and read Holocaust books. For months. By myself. I don't think I even told my parents. Or my mom. My dad was dead at the time. I don't think I even told my mom that I was doing that. But I did that. By myself. Because it was just a touched upon thing in school. Well, that was part of it. That was part of World War II. And it never registered to me that Israel would be important to me as an individual, because I'm watching what's happening with the left, what's happening in the city of Philadelphia, where people are picketing and protesting Jewish businesses, Jewish homes, there bomb threats all over Philadelphia on synagogues, on my synagogue.
Was there?
Oh, yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah. And all of the synagogues in Philadelphia had bomb threats in the same day. And I'm watching this happen, and I'm having other Jewish businesses reach out to me saying, thank you so much for being vocal about what's happening to us, because I don't feel comfortable. I am scared. I am scared that people are going to come to my house, that people are going to come to my business, that I have a business here, and I have a business here, and I have a business here, and I'm scared that they're going to find my business address because it's public knowledge. The only thing that makes me feel safe about being vocal at my business, like about my business being connected to a physical address where public people can come to my business at any time and say hi or do whatever the fuck. The only thing that makes me feel comfortable is that the business directly next door to me is a gym that is run by an ex-Marine. And there are signs all over his front door. Guns are welcome here. I fucking dare you to come and picket my shit because I'm good friends with the dude upstairs. And he'll fucking shoot you. Like, so I dare you. Like, come into my space and attack me.
But there was a lot of violence based on how businesses responded, and even whether they spoke out versus not. Like like people are getting pressured to speak out.
But I'm saying, like, that's why I feel safe doing it.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of other people don't.
A lot of people did not.
Because it's fucking terrifying to have a group of 100, 200, 1,000 people outside your business telling you we charge you with genocide. Are you fucking kidding me?
It's canceled. And also the boycotts. Like, I understand the need for boycotts when there's a specific goal and a specific end to it.
Again, though, it's the irony that gets me and the hypocrisy that gets me. Like, you can't sit there and be like, I'm boycotting Starbucks because Starbucks is pro-Israeli. From your phone that was created...
Well, it doesn't mean you shouldn't try to do anything, but I think also a lot of people are doing these things without even having, like, again, media literacy or, like, a sourced understanding of what they're even doing. And then there was things like, even going back to the podcast again, they were sharing an example of, like, boycotts of businesses that were over there, and then they ended up putting, like, Palestinian workers out of work, and then you can have a whole conversation about the complexity of, like, whether that, you know, what would ideally be true for Palestinian workers, whatever, but, like, you don't know what you're messing with, which is colonization. Like, that's when you just kind of stick your fingers in things and have no idea. You just end a Jewish business today, or you just end the business of a perfectly innocent... Your tail, man, is really...
Well, it's like Ella Capon was saying, you know, it's not an eye for an eye. It's an eye for someone else's eye. It's... I don't know if you watched her...
I did not have time. Okay, mostly just this podcast that I could possibly...
Fair.
Ma'am.
So,
no.
Elika is an attorney. She's an Iranian attorney. And she lives in the United States. She's brilliant. And she was talking about how people are saying, particularly on the left, that what happened on October 7th was justified because of the suffering experienced by the Palestinian people. All of the Palestinian suffering culminated in an uprising that took out however many Jews, however many Israelis, and it was totally justified because of the sufferings of the Palestinians, and the Jews should have seen it coming because you can't oppress someone without having them retaliate. Okay. Except that it wasn't that. Lily, go away. My God. It wasn't just a matter of, okay, retaliation for oppression. It wasn't... It does call back to an eye for an eye mentality, which, being from the time that we are in, we are expecting each other to be above that. And particularly, we're expecting Israel now to hold itself way above that. But that's another aspect of this. So let's go back to October 7th. So the fact is that they weren't retaliating, quote unquote, against an Israeli faction, against a military stronghold, against any of that. They went into people's houses and they killed innocent people. They killed children. They killed innocent women and men. They killed whoever. They killed people from other countries. I watched a horrifying video of a fucking Nigerian who was there on a fucking work visa, murdered. And I remember that day that I watched that video because one of my Palestinian friends messaged me and we were talking, and he was like, yo, what the fuck is this? And I was like, listen, man, I'm in a real state. I just watched a video of this Nigerian guy getting murdered, and I'm not in a good place. Like, I just need a minute. And he was really, really angry about the Nigerian guy dying, and he was like, what the hell happened to him? Like, what the fuck? Like, who killed him? And I was like, it was Hamas, man, on October 7th. Like, it was just another video that just came out. And he didn't respond. And I was like, yeah. Okay. I'm feeling that right now. Like, okay. But, like, back to what Elika was saying was, it's not just an eye for an eye mentality. It's an eye for someone else's eye. It's, I am going to retaliate against someone you know because of something someone you know did to me. So it's the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. It's, I'm going to retaliate against you and your people through someone else that you know. So, like, your grandfather did something to me, so I'm going to kill your grandchild. Your grandchild had fucking nothing to do with that shit. That's an eye for someone else's eye. And that's what happened on October 7th. And that is... Regressive doesn't begin to cover what that is.
I mean, I can only really apply it in terms of, like, race politics in America, the way that I understand them, and I just am out of my depth. But I do think one thing I want to also just throw into the ring in terms of this entire conversation is that my focus also throughout this entire thing, and maybe, like, because I don't have a personal connection in a way that, like, I just don't feel like I can speak to a lot of, like, the politics, the numbers, I can't speak to it. I can, like, witness or whatever. I can be aware as far as I can be aware. But anyway, my point is, it seems like also what I can comment on is America's kind of insertion into Israel and into the whole idea, and the way that we are really, like, it just seems like pulling a lot of strings. And then there's this entire, like, ultimately, I wonder if you can also maybe clarify for me what you think about the difference between, like, a Zionist and a Christian Zionist or a Christian nationalist, like a...
Well,
because
my understanding, a Christian nationalist is someone who believes that all Jews need to be in Israel in order for the second coming, or what is that?
That's what it is, the rapture. So there's this entire thing that I can speak to because I was raised in a Christian church that has all to do with the rapture and what the goals of the Christian nationalists and those people would like in terms of Zionism,
sure.
Which I think is also part of, like, what the left wants to react against, because obviously that part is wrong, and that part is disgusting, because that part is ultimately also white supremacist and very, like, anti-Jewish people. It's about taking over the world basically for white supremacists, and so that part is, like, maybe probably a different question, but I think important to bring up.
I don't. Christian nationalism has nothing to do with Zionism. Like, Christian Zionism has nothing to do with Zionism.
Well, we fund Zionist. We fund not Zionist. We fund Israel.
Lots of people that fund lots of different factions all over the world. Like, that doesn't really mean much.
I don't know what it doesn't mean, though, because they're clearly have a goal there.
Money floats everywhere, right? Like, everyone has a goal everywhere. Everyone has a end game that suits them. For example, Qatar has funded billions of dollars into the United States higher education system. It matters because, like, it's dictating what's happening in the United States higher education system.
Yeah.
But it also is, like, it doesn't devalue what the United States education system is supposed to be, right? So, like, I still got a great education about whatever I got an education about, in spite of the fact that Qatar has sent money to my college. Like, I'm sure it skewed some shit, which is probably why the pogroms against Jews wasn't really in my history curriculum, where it should have been. But I still got a pretty comprehensive understanding of what happened in the history of the Middle East, if that makes sense. So, like,
I'm following. I'm listening, but I don't think I'm quite understanding your point.
Okay, so you're talking about Christian Zionists sending money to Israel because they believe that if all Jews return to Israel, then and like all Jews globally, if we all return to Israel, then the rapture will happen, the second coming will happen, Jesus will fucking come back, and then they will all be free from whatever the fuck they're trying to...
I think it's more complicated. It's a political thing instead of a religious thing. It's under the religious language.
Of course it is.
But it's about white
I'm
supremacy.
trying to, like, boil it down into something that can be understood in, like, a minute, because like you haven't actually explained what Christian Zionism is.
No, but I think that it's just important to understand that it's like a political thing, not just a religious idea that's like a fantasy. It's like somebody's trying to enact a political ideology through it.
Well, of course, because like then again, if all the Jews return to Israel, there's always the possibility that all of the Muslim countries around will band together and take out all of the Jews, and then none of the world has to worry about Jews ever again. Problem solved. And then, you know, politically, they're still eradicated from Jewish influence, which is like, quote unquote, the worst thing that could ever happen to the world. Because obviously we control everything and we drink the blood of the innocent people.
Well, that's all part of that entire same, like, ideology or whatever.
I know. And so I'm saying, like, all of these things, but you can't take the religion out of Christian Zionism.
No, it's part of it, but I just don't want to. I don't want to reduce it to the religion thing, because it's not about like, oh, we believe in Jesus and we want to go to heaven. It's about like we want to take over the world and have a power.
Okay, and that's all well and good, but that you can have an entire conversation of 5 hours with someone who actually knows what the fuck you're talking about, because I don't know shit about Christian Zionism. I really don't. I wasn't raised around that shit. I don't have any fucking clue. I was raised fucking atheist as shit. I wasn't even raised as a Jew. I have no idea what the goals of Christian Zionism is. I can't speak to any of that. So, like, all I can give you is my, like, very basic, like, from a sociological perspective and from a Jewish perspective, understanding of, like, okay, if all the Jews move back to Israel, here are the two things that I see can happen. One, all the Jews die at the hands of Muslims and Arabs in the region and incur the rapture or whatever the fucking goal is of Christian Zionists at that time. But, like, I'm also trying to, like, kind of back it out into a realm that I understand. So, like, again, if we're looking at, you're talking about the financial component. Okay, fine. Like, but, like, you can't sit there and say that Christian Zionism impacts actual Zionism and how Zionists operate, because we don't actually pay that close attention. It's kind of like how much attention Christians in the West pay to the Westboro Baptist Church. Not that much. Like, y'all are fucking crazy.
Well, that's an interesting perspective, because, I am really just asking, like, what's the difference between the terms, because I'm aware there's a difference, but I don't know if a lot of people are also aware that there's a difference.
A Jewish Zionist and a Zionist outside of Christian Zionism is someone who simply believes that Jews have a right to exist in their indigenous homeland, which is Judea, which is Israel. So Judea is a name historically for what is now Israel, what is now considered Israel. So that is a Zionist. That's it. There's nothing more to it. It's not more convoluted. It's not people who believe that Palestinians deserve to die. It's not that all Arabs are terrible. It's not that all Muslims don't have a religion. It's not any of this shit that's floating around the internet. It is literally solely and exclusively someone who believes that Jews have a right to self-determination in their homeland. That's it. That's it. That's all it is.
Well, that's the definition that's why I think it's important to talk about the terms, because by that definition, who could disagree? But then there's a totally other definition, as well, that other people will use to accomplish their ends.
Well, and so here's the other side of that really, really nefarious coin. Jews are the only people who get our terms redefined by people outside of our community. We're the only ones. I mean, fuck, queer people reclaimed queer in the 90s. Mm-hmm. No one can tell us what queer means.
That's a very good point. And I don't think that Jewish voices have been uplifted whatsoever. And I do think that
They have been denigrated.
It's good that Palestinian voices can be uplifted. It's not good that people feel like they then need to manipulate the flow of information and silence Jewish voices in order to do that. That should never have been true, and I don't feel like there's been any space given to just allow you to speak about a very serious trauma that's also happening.
If you need to denigrate another person's voice to make yours feel louder, you are missing the point. You are missing the point. You're not helping.
Aquarian Music Witch, the podcast, is made possible by listeners like you. To support this project, you can contribute directly through our Ko-fi page at ko-fi.com/aquarianmusicwitch, or consider subscribing to our Supercast page. With the AMW Supercast Content Access Pass, you'll gain access to a vault of exclusive content and other cosmic perks starting at just $5 a month. Now, back to the show.
It's like, I was saying this the other day to somebody, like people, so there was a comedy skit, for lack of better phrasing, because I personally didn't find it funny, but there was a comedy skit that came out of Israel about 3 weeks after October 7th, that was talking about Queers for Palestine, and it was making fun of that. And I know that I, along with multiple other queer people, because of comments that I'd seen on the internet, had a real problem with, because it was very early, and it was the first group to be targeted. And this comedy skit was basically making fun of queer people who were advocating for Palestinian liberation or advocating for Palestinians in the wake of October 7th. And I didn't find it funny, and I found it very scary, because queers were the first demographic of people to be singled out by Israelis. And someone else, and I wrote out this whole thing multiple times about, okay, this is really scary, and let me tell you why. It's really scary because I am queer. I look queer. I look like, minus the blue hair, I look like the people that you're talking about. And you can tell that I am queer much easier than you can tell that I am Jewish. And way easier than you can tell that I am a Zionist, that I am for the Israeli state, that I am supportive of the Jewish people existing in the region that we are fucking from. I'm for all of that, and I am for our self-determination. I am for whatever. But you can't tell any of that without talking to me. And the problem that I had with this comedy skit that came out was that it really painted a target on the back of queer people by Jews, which left Jewish queers in a real tough spot, because we are no longer accepted by queer people because we're fucking Jewish, and we are supportive. I wouldn't say all of us. There are a few who aren't supportive of the Israeli state, but like most of us are, because
you're talking about queer Jewish people specifically?
Yeah. Queer Jewish people who have been very outspoken against the Israeli state, and like the JVP. There are some queers in there, and there's like one queer author in, God, I don't remember if she was in Louisiana or LA, one of the two. And there's one in, I think she's in Rhode Island.
Mm-hmm.
And they're both very intelligent people, and they have clearly thought through this a lot, and I respect where they are, but I think that they have been, I don't know what they've been, but whatever, it doesn't matter. But it was a scary thing to see this comedy skit come out of Israel, because I was like, listen, like, we're the first fucking people that you are painting a target on, and we are hated just as much, if not more, than Jews globally. We are one of the top 3 hated demographics of any person on the planet. And you can't tell someone, and I got this from a lot of Israelis when I was still vocalizing, like, I'm not going to let this make me hate Palestinians. And I'm still vocalizing that, but it was like early on and people were really angry. And I got from certain Israelis that I didn't know, these were not friends of mine, but people who just found me and were like, they kill you. They will
that
push
weird
you
argument.
off a building.
Weird argument.
And I was like, okay.
Seems unrelated.
It's not. And I was like, don't be mistaken. I am well aware that Palestinian culture is not a progressive, queer, embracing one. I vividly remember coming out at Seeds of Peace and being absolutely terrified to tell these people that I was gay. Terrified. Absolutely, like, cripplingly, debilitatingly terrified. And they didn't recoil from me when I told them. They were confused. And they were like, we don't have gay people. I was like,
you probably do.
You do. But that's okay. That's like another conversation for another day. But, like, they didn't hate me. They didn't recoil from me. They didn't tell me that I was they didn't push me off a fucking building either. I mean, granted, we were in Maine, but that's not the point. Like, but they didn't do any of that. And I'm not saying that there aren't Palestinians who do. I've seen videos of gay people killed in Palestine, in Iran, in all over the world. Like, the Middle East is not a friendly place to the gay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just not. But this argument that Israelis were using immediately post October 7th, saying they will fucking kill you. They will shoot you. They will beat you. They will rape you. They will cripple you. They will throw you off a building and they will torture you. That is not a way to get a community on your side.
Yeah.
It's just not. You can't threaten them with violence and then be like, but we won't do that.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about? You were the one who just came out with all of these things.
As a cudgel. Yeah.
You just said all this shit to me and I'm supposed to be like, well, you're safe. Clearly you thought all this shit through. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, I get it. Y'all both want me dead. Like, cool, thanks. Way to solidify that. And, like, I don't believe that Israelis want me dead. I also don't believe that my Palestinian friends want me dead. I think that Israel is a little bit more friendly towards the gay. They don't routinely hang them. But, like, gays can't get married in Israel either. But, like, it is the only gay pride parade that exists in the Middle East. So that's something, you know, I'll fucking take it. Like, if I'm gonna go visit the Middle East, you can best believe I'm not going to Iran. No, thank you. I'm not going to Turkey. Like, nope. No. I don't want to die. I don't even fucking go to Alabama. Like, I have... My fiance and I were recently talking about states that we could move to. We were watching fucking... What is that show? Yellowstone. We were watching Yellowstone. And we're sitting there on the couch, and I see this scene in Yellowstone where there are sitting at a table at a cafe what appears to be two queer men. And I was like, holy shit, there's queers in Montana now? I can finally go? That's fucking amazing. And she was like, baby, they're hipsters. They're not gay. We're not going to Montana. And I was like, damn it, because I was raised in country culture and I fucking want to go to Montana, but I don't want to die. Like, I'm not going to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Where women can't drive. No. I'm not going to Egypt. I'm not going to these places. I mean, and now it's like a double whammy if I can't go to these places because I'm gay and a Jew. I mean, each one of these countries have ethnically cleansed Jews from their societies in the last 50 years. Gone from tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, to a maximum of 10. I mean it, literally. There were pogroms. People were evacuated. People people were fucking kicked out or killed. I can send you the statistics. I don't have the numbers lodged in my brain, but they have in Afghanistan. There have been multiple pogroms in the last 75 years of right before World War II officially started. There was a big pogrom of Jews in Afghanistan. And in the last 75 years, all of the surrounding countries, Afghanistan, Iraq, Lebanon, Syria, Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, they have all gone from around 50,000 or 100,000 or 200,000 Jews to a maximum of 10. And I mean that literally. There is currently one registered Jew in Syria. One.
Wow.
And so, like, you want to talk about the realities of the region, fine, let's fucking talk about it. People want to be like, well, why do the Jews need their own fucking country? You tell me, man. You tell me. We would love to not need our own country. You want to talk about apartheid? All right, let's discuss. Let's discuss. Let's talk about the segregation that 100% exists in Israel. I am not arguing that Israel is a perfect country. It has been around since 1948. It's got some shit to figure out. Like, yeah, it's got some problems. Some real serious ones. But in apartheid? No. But, like, let's talk about the realities of the region. There is nowhere for us to go. Israel is made up of 52% POC, people of color. People who are Arab, people who are from Lebanon, from Iraq, from Afghanistan, from Saudi Arabia, from Egypt, from Jordan. They're from everywhere. And they are from all of these places because they have been systematically and intentionally eradicated from these places. And they had nowhere else to go. And so when Jews of these regions were looking for places to go, Israel was the only safe place for Jews to exist, other than the United States, and not everybody can afford that boat ride. That's why Israel's needed. It's not for the Westerners. I mean, we can go. I would love to go. I've never even been. I have never been because I was so afraid of being brainwashed by Birthright.
You were, really?
100%. I didn't go. I didn't go on Birthright, and I regret it.
That's interesting. But you felt like it could be a brainwashing experience.
Absolutely.
Interesting. What made you feel like that?
I went to Seeds of Peace, and I don't know if you know what that is, but
I guess I don't.
So Seeds of Peace is a peace camp that is based in Maine. That basically it started in 1949, and it was started to teach kids that the enemy has a face. And it was started around the Palestinian-Israeli conflict that already existed because of the Arab-Israeli war that happened, the War of Independence that happened.
They might have been talking about that in the podcast too, yeah.
Briefly. I think we briefly touched on the genuine history. But so after the Arab-Israeli War of 1948, the Seeds of Peace camp was started, and there's like, you know, in the other podcast that we both listened to on Unapologetic, the third whatever the fuck,
third narrative, yeah,
they talk about how like a lot of peace organizations require more effort from Palestinians than Israelis. The Palestinians have to go to the Israelis. The Palestinians have to learn Hebrew. The Israelis don't have to learn Arabic. At Seeds of Peace, everyone has to know English. And they have to travel to the United States. They have to travel to Maine. And it is a wonderful, middle of fucking nowhere space. Now, it is a co-sex space, but they are fully segregated at any time where they might be physically compromised. So if you want to go swimming, that's fully segregated. There are no men and women sharing spaces during swim time, during co-housing time. There's no co-housing, there's no none of that. It is fully segregated. And that is to be intentionally respectful of people's cultures and beliefs. And so basically, like, the way that this camp works is it's 3 weeks where kids 16 to 18 come to Maine for 3 weeks, and we have multiple times a day dialogue sessions, and then where we talk about the problems, where we talk about what's happening, where we talk about all of the shit. And then we have community building and trust building stuff. And then we have a huge competition at the end where it's green versus blue, and we see who wins. And it's like regular camp activities of like racing while kayaking, or racing, you know, climbing a tree, or tug of war, or whatever. But, you know, you have these times where you are together and you are learning constantly, because it is a major culture shock for everybody. You've got the Americans who have very little idea of what's happening because we're fucking 16, 17, 18, and most of us we're all still in high school. We haven't learned shit about the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, so we're kind of going in a little bit blind, other than it exists. And so our job is to be like more mediator, more like, okay, let's learn, but let's also not kill each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Seems like the point, yeah.
Like, okay, cool. We'll give it a go. And then, you know, we've got counselors and stuff who are also there to help with that. And we have a very mixed bag of counselors. We have Israeli counselors, we have Lebanese counselors, we have counselors from everywhere. And that's fucking intentional. And, you know, and then we have kids from all over the region, because the region has become routinely destabilized since the start of this camp in 1948. And so we have kids from everywhere, but like it was mostly Palestinian Israeli. And, you know, so I met a lot of people there, and that's how I learned that this conflict existed. That was my introduction to it. And, you know, what was the best for me was, you know, my closest friend, who I'm still friends with, who I've gotten into multiple fights with over the last few months, is a wonderful, amazing, beautiful Palestinian man from the West Bank. And he's like still one of my favorite people, and I have so much respect for him and love for him. And I know he's very mad at me right now, and that hurts, but I get it. You know, but when we left, I realized that I might never see them again. And I remember vividly sitting, watching him get on the bus to go back to the airport, and breaking in a way that I had never broken before. And I remember screaming his name, and I still love him as much as I loved him then, and I'm still gay, but like I loved him, and I love him now, and I'm glad that he's safe. And when October 7th happened, I messaged him, and I waited for days for him to get back to me, not knowing if he was okay. And the resentment that I feel towards people accusing me of being indoctrinated by anyone is so intense, because they know nothing about me or my experience with any of this. And but Seeds of Peace is beautiful and invaluable. And it means more to me, I think, than 99.9% of things in my life ever have. And if I have kids and the camp is still going, they will all go. Because it is vital. And because it reminds you to be humble. And that the enemy has a face. And a peoplehood. And they matter. And it is very easy. It is so easy to hate. It is so easy to look at the other and say, fuck it. But it doesn't work. And I will never not love Adham or anyone else. And it just is fucking devastating. It's devastating what's happening. And you can be as intelligent about it as you fucking want. It doesn't mean shit. We're all dying. Whether we're dead under rubble or we had our body parts cut off or we had our head cut off with a fucking garden shovel, which is a video that I watched on October 8th. We're all dying. We are all in pain. Excruciating pain.
And afraid, I think.
Terrified. Because it's only going to get worse. And people love to mock the fear. I've had so many people mock me in the last few months for things that I've expressed that I've experienced. Who gives a shit? Palestinians are dying. Yeah, they are. But not because of me. I'm not saying they're not dying. I'm not saying they're not hurting. But Syrians are dying too, and you don't care about them. Iranians are dying too, and you don't care about them. I mean, shit. 200 Nigerian Christians were kidnapped a week ago. No one cares about them. But you've decided that because you can attach the moniker of white colonialist to this you care about. Because you can chalk it up to white supremacy. You're just stupid. And naive. And I feel sorry for you.
And short-sighted with no attention span.
Deeply.
Yeah.
Deeply. Deeply myopic. But it's like, where do you find the strength to keep having conversations with these people who have just decided that you don't deserve to live anymore? Because while they think they're not saying that, this whole from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Palestine should be free. Palestinians should be free. But from the river to the sea is where you lose me. Because, one, you don't know what river or what sea. Two, you mean that Israel should dissolve. And you've made that clear.
Well, they call it is not real, so I'm not really sure why it would be even an implication.
Yeah.
And that's obviously like a very contentious phrase that, again, is one of those examples of terminology that, depending on who you're talking to, it means a very different thing. And rather than shouting over each other and trying to gaslight each other, I think, I did like, again, the podcast had that like free of occupation, Palestine is a free nation as an alternative phrase, and I liked that
100%.
phrasing, but it is like the weeds of the terminology are just like, it's all an excuse as a cudgel always.
Absolutely.
And again, like in my terms, in my colonization idea, the extreme end of it and what you are implying is genocide, and that's also not okay. Genocide is not okay.
Yeah.
Whatever genocide is not okay.
You can't eradicate any people from where they are, whether they started there or didn't. It doesn't fucking matter. We are there now. We are there now. Any people anywhere. A neighbor moves into your neighborhood, you can't go and shoot them and be like, well, you're colonizing. Like, fuck off. What are you talking about?
Well, they have, I mean, not trying to disagree with you, but they have those kind of similar pushbacks. Like you see them on the housing boards we talked about or whatever.
Absolutely. And I mean, you can push back if you want to. You can be mad about it.
No, I'm not mad about it.
No. I'm saying you, the universal you. Like, universal you can be mad about it. You can be pissed off that a white person is moving into a all-black neighborhood that's been an all-black neighborhood since white flight. You can be mad about it. Fine. Be mad. But you don't get to go into their house and shoot them because they decided to move. Because they can't afford to live anywhere else. You don't get to do that. However they wound up there, they have now wound up there. Yeah. And they are still a fucking person.
I think it's hard for me to unpack like where I stand, and I think I agree with you, but I think the thing that's the sticking point is this idea of needing to do something that breaks a system, and then people are in that system and people are going to get hurt. But I also just think a lot of people will displace onto individuals a problem of a system, and it doesn't help anything, and it's ultimately futile.
Vague, and I need you to be more specific.
I'm not being intentionally vague. I might be being vague.
Well, you're using overarching terms like a system. That's intentional vagueness to me.
I mean, I guess I'm just trying to separate the idea of a system from the idea of an individual.
Sure, but I just need you to be more specific right now because I'm not fully understanding what you're saying. So I need you to give a context.
Let me try to think of how to say that. Like if we're mad about the ICE encampments and this isn't quite the right example either. It could apply to any kind of thing. No, let me do a different one. Let me do a less caustic one.
Sure.
If we're like that whole thing, like this is an innocuous one, but like that whole thing of like paper straws kind of bothered me always because it's a value judgment so that thing of where they used to have plastic straws and then they did this big shift into doing paper straws and like recyclable straws, and they don't really like give out the straws anymore. Same thing with kind of like plastic bags. So, and around the time that was happening, I also had just experienced a major emergency root canal so that my teeth were incredibly sensitive to where I was, and I've now for the second time in my life had to suck down things with a straw with my mouth, my pemphigus in my mouth. So I'm in this place where suddenly I have like a disability of some kind that means that I have to use a straw. Then I'm going out to places. This is like a stupid, innocuous example. There's so many examples. Then I'm going to a restaurant, a Panera, and like I ask for a straw and the chick gives me judgment from behind the counter.
Right.
Stop. I am not the reason why we have a huge recycling problem. Like I understand the need for the thing to happen, but you are judging me as an individual now, and you have no idea what you're talking about. You have no idea what my experience is, and I need a straw. Get away from me with that judgment. That's the dumbest example, and just because it applies just to me. But it's like any kind of political action, I can buy into the idea that you need to throw a wrench in the works, and maybe that means like a sit-in. Maybe that means like the traffic stops. But and sometimes maybe that means someone dies. But if you are like, you can also get into that and then displace onto people. Like, now the security guard or something is my enemy
Sure.
instead of a person that's stuck in a system.
Right. If you want to be mad at the Israeli government, go for it. If you want to hold the Israeli government accountable for the deaths of innocent Palestinians, fucking go nuts. You should. You should. Because every government is responsible for the shit that they pull wherever they pull it.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. Be mad. Be mad at Netanyahu. He should be in jail
Yeah,
for a
terrible.
lot of things.
Fuck
He's
Netanyahu.
a fucking nightmare.
That's my
But, like,
opinion.
you know, he's and I remember talking to people who were non-Jews immediately after October 7th, and one of my friends very cautiously asked me, and he was like, "But what do you think about Netanyahu?" And I was like, "He's a criminal and he's a piece of shit." And he was like, "Oh, thank God." And I was like,
Yeah, but again, this conflation of
like,
the leaders to all the
crazy.
people.
Like, I haven't just
Well,
like
yeah.
overhauled my entire belief
Yeah.
system because I'm Jewish.
You don't
and, like,
equal the
like, what are you
IDF, and
talking
the
about?
Palestinians don't equal Hamas, and that's another problem. Like, that's the
Stop
same thing I'm
conflating
talking.
everything.
That's the same thing I'm talking about with the system and the people. Like, why is this just all? This is not all the same. And also, you're not even going to be the same as every opinion of every queer Jewish person. Like,
But
you're
see,
just your own.
Here's the thing that I'm seeing that I'm not. Here's the thing that I'm seeing coming from the left to Jews that I'm not seeing. Well, I guess I can see where the argument is. It just feels a lot bigger coming from the left towards Jews than from anyone else towards Palestinians. I guess because the left is just really fucking loud. I don't know if maybe I'm just getting a very skewed bias. Maybe I'm just getting what fucking Instagram wants me to see. But to me, Palestinians are not all being held accountable by Hamas as far as the larger world order is concerned. As far as, like, the world determines your guilt. So there's, like, the court of public opinion, and then there's the court of courts, right? So there's, like, court, and then there's the court of public opinion. You don't have to prove you're guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in the court of public opinion. You just have to kind of throw a little crumb that, like, maybe you're guilty, and then by court of public opinion, as far as the West is concerned, you're fucking guilty.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I feel everything is happening towards Israel right now. Like, everyone's just fucking decided that Israel's guilty.
Well, Israel got canceled.
Right.
And Jewish people, by extension,
And
got canceled.
Jewish people-
Bizarre and surreal.
Right. And we're just fucking canceled.
Yeah,
Like,
bizarre
we
experience
don't-
of watching
we
Jewish
don't
people get
matter.
canceled.
We aren't people.
Makes no sense.
We aren't relevant. We don't get an opinion. Like, it's crazy. And, like, that's not happening to Palestinians globally. As far as I am aware. I'm not seeing it happening. Is it happening amongst some Jews? Totally. Absolutely. Some Jews are, like, super shitty about it. You're just like, guys. Shh. Stop it. No. Don't say. Shh. Shut up.
I've also met Jewish people that are extremely pro-Palestine and very anti-Zionist. Like,
For sure. And they're crazy. But, like...
well, I mean,
To me-
everybody has their own take, you know?
Well, sure. But, like, to me, you know, like, I don't know. And I used to be anti-Zionist. And I'm just, like, sitting here going, no, I was fucking nuts. I'm not going to have a place to go real soon.
And that's because of you're
Real
changing
soon.
your opinion because of the immediacy and the urgency of the hate that's coming down.
It is really, you know, and it's coming from places that I never saw it coming. So it's like, it's coming from, like, I don't really care what random people on the internet say to me. I've lived through so much hate in my life looking like this that, like, okay, whatever, fine. You want to run your mouth at me, like, you're a one-offsman. But, like, it's coming from everywhere. And it's coming from people that I know. Where I'm like, ooh, that hits different.
Because you can tell it's always just in there, but it just hasn't come out.
Right. You've been holding that. You've been holding that for a minute now.
Mm-hmm.
That's a problem for me.
Yeah.
Like, my mom, about a month in, after October 7th, I remember I was talking to her about what was happening, and I was talking to her about, like, the region and the history and the realities of how all this shit's connected. And she was like, but what I want to know is why. And I was like, why what? What do you mean?
What does that mean?
Why what? And she was like, why do they hate the Jews? There's got to be a reason. There's got to be something that happened. Something that the Jews did.
Whoa.
And I was like...
Whoa, mama.
I was like, Ma.
They probably wore a short skirt.
I was like, Ma, I understand that you want to be able to put this in a neat and tidy box so that you can put it on a shelf. Never think about it again.
Yeah.
And be like, ah, yes, this is what the Jews did. They did this thing.
Mm-hmm.
They killed Jesus.
They killed Jesus.
And that was it. That was the kiss of death for the Jews, and the Christians fucking turned and were like, fuck you, and then the Muslims were like, yeah, no, fuck them, and then that was it. And it was Jesus. Like, by the way, we did not kill Jesus. Like, for anyone listening to this Fuck the podcast, sitting there going, ah, yes, a Jew admitted they killed Jesus. No, we fucking didn't. Like, I'm just saying that is a blood libel, which if you don't know what that is, please go Google it. But a blood libel is basically the thing that everyone accuses Jews of doing that we don't fucking do. We're not putting blood in our matzah of the people we hate, which is something that I've seen floating around. I was like, oh my god.
Whoa.
What the fuck? They're like, ah, yes, the Jews make their matzah with the blood of their enemies. No, we fucking don't. That's gross. Like, what are you talking about? There's nothing in matzah. There's not even salt. Like, we don't even do salt. It's unleavened bread. There could not be fewer ingredients in that shit.
Mm.
Like, like, it just, you know, so I'm like, and, like, the things that I met with that are definitely anti-Semitic, like, what my mom said about what did you do? Jews didn't do anything. There was nothing that happened that made us, like, the permanent target of hate. Like, we didn't do anything. That's like asking a rape victim, like, what were you wearing?
Well, exactly.
Like, no, like, we didn't fucking do any, we were walking along, eating our matzah, and fucking calling our sheep, like, fuck off. You know? Like, and now it's like, it's devolved so much that people, my ex in particular, I, like, keep checking in on her stories because I keep trying to fucking educate her into, like, being just, like, a little bit more, because I spent 7 years with this person, and I am so offended. And I spent 7 years with this person, and she doesn't think more of Jewish people than she does. Like, I'm just like, how the fuck was I with you for 7 years? I don't understand. But, like, how did you learn nothing? And she keeps posting shit where, like, literally the things that she's posting are quoting Hamas directly, and it says, Hamas says in the article. And I'm like, ah, yes. Well, as long as Hamas says it, it must be true. And you're just reposting it and sharing it like it's a given. Were you dropped on your head as a baby? Like, what are you doing? Am I yelling into a void? Like, I don't understand. Like, how are you still not seeing how that is problematic? How Hamas is connected to Iran? How Hezbollah is connected to Iran, how the Houthis are connected to Iran, how Qatar is connected to Iran, how Qatar is connected to Hamas, how do you not see this? I don't understand. Like, and I don't know if it's because I'm so entrenched in what's happening that I'm seeing how all of these things are interconnected.
Yeah, I'm sure you see things, like, differently, yeah.
Like,
with more context.
I was super for AOC and the squad, and, like, I was super excited to have people of color, but, like, one of their biggest backers is the NAIC. The NAIC is a how to describe this? It is I can't remember the proper government terms, but they are, like, the contact point of government agencies between governments. So, like, they are the ones that work for Iran without working for Iran, and they are the biggest financial backers of people like AOC and Tlaib and the other fucking 3 goddamn Congress people who voted to allow Hamas insurgents to be able to come to the U.S. Like, what? Were you dropped on your head? How are you gonna say that someone who was involved, not even just supportive of, but involved in the massacre of October 7th, can come to the United States on a visa? No. Don't make Trump's point for him, my friend. Like, what are you doing?
There's a lot of weird, like, the other thing I saw that was really bizarre and surreal on TikTok was that people started lifting up Osama bin Laden as like a hero. And I was like, you guys, like, it's one thing to inform yourself enough to perhaps read something that was censored. It's another thing to act like he was not a terrorist who...
I got into a fight with my cousin about this. Like, I was raised by... When I say raised, I mean, like, my queerness. I was raised by my cousin and her partner, and, like, I love them and I respect them so much, and they're both, like, very queer, like, very... From my definition of what I used to identify as a radicalist queer, that I would say that they are in the boat, you know, of radical queers who want to, like, overhaul the system and take it down and restart.
Mm.
They were, like, the generation before me of radical queers who were like, fuck you and your privilege and fucking deal with your shit.
Mm-hmm.
And they're both professors, and my cousin's partner and I were talking at Thanksgiving, and I was like, have you seen this? And she was like, yeah, I understand. It's, you know, and I was like, what do you mean when you say you understand? And she was like, well, I can see how they got there. It's fucking crazy, but I can see how they got there. And I was like, no.
I can also see how they got there, but it is crazy.
But, like, and like Alec Abon was saying, like, how do you disassociate so hard from whatever that you decide that you are going to support the person who wants to blow up where you are?
Well, it's like we want to cancel our own country. And again, that goes back to just complete nihil. Like, you just want to die then. I don't want to die, so I don't agree with you anymore. I think there's some hope, so now we disagree.
Well, I think there's also, like, I don't think that it's nihilism, because I don't think that they understand what they're saying. Like, I genuinely think that there is... And I don't know if disassociation is the right word, because I just had a conversation with a therapist friend of mine the other night who, like, came into my DMs being like, well, she's, like, super misusing these medical terms, like, these medical mental health terms. And I was like, cool, yeah, I hear that, but there's only so many words in the English language, and frankly, we're running out of some. So unfortunately, like, the mental health community is going to get kind of shot in the foot here. And she was specifically referring to moral narcissism. But, like, she also referenced that, you know, the use of disassociation in this context is wrong, because it's not, you can't have a group mentally dissociate. It is a specific medical diagnosis, which ascribing it to something else is ableist. So, like, yes, okay, I can see that point. I understand that. Logically, I understand that context.
And it does become, people just misuse it.
Right,
another
totally.
problem.
It gets thrown around, it gets misdiagnosed, it gets misinterpreted, it gets whatever. But there is a certain level of disconnect from when you live in a state of self-righteousness that is so intense, and it is as intense as the West has been for the last 10 years. When you live there for so long and you're raised there, young queers, young leftists, people who are fucking Gen Z and younger, these people have lived in a realm of moral self-righteousness for so long that there is a disconnect of, well, they're not talking about me, because there was that whole thing in BLM where people routinely said, we're calling out white people for white privilege, but if you don't act like this, we're not talking about you, so don't get defensive, don't get mad. And it caused this separation of self from your perceived whiteness.
That's interesting.
Like, and this is my own theory that
that's
I'm coming
very
up
interesting.
with literally as I'm saying this right now. There's this separation that has happened from, and it was applauded and celebrated to the point where, as a white person or a perceived white person, if you said anything about white people that was negative, you were celebrated for it. So you were celebrated for disassociating, or not, I don't know.
For denouncing yourself because it didn't fit what you wanted to be. And that's so dangerous, because you can't actually... Well, there was like a dissociation, yeah.
Yeah, and I do think it's a dissociation, because it's still a disassociation from the self in some capacity, but like, you are holding an entire demographic of people, and every single person in that demographic, accountable for the actions of a few. And apparently that is now only okay when we are talking about white people. And that is dangerous. That is dangerous, and it is reductive and not helpful in any capacity. It's not helpful.
It creates a division, and then it just this is not like something I want to delve super deeply into in this thing, because it's about something else, but
Sure.
I have this like thing of dealing with hatred for men, dealing with like, not that I have hatred, but that some of the language and some of the way that you just like engage in queerness over time leads you to be like, I don't want anything to do with you.
No, it
and then
definitely
there's like,
makes you hate men.
Definitely. And then there's like a separation to where I'm like, oh shit, like that becomes a me problem. Like, like if we're all one thing, and so and that's a very present issue for me right now. Like, how do I then overcome that into a place where I'm not being dragged down by feelings of anger and feelings of just like, I think you're going to attack me, and I don't think you have anything valid to say, and I don't really think of you as a person. Not that that's really where I am, but like
but it's a real short step.
It's a real short step. And even the language, it kind of programs you to do it.
I've been dealing with too, for the last few years, and what has helped me is that most of my friends are men. You know, like, but it does
help to humanize by knowing a lot of men. Yeah, and I also know a lot of men.
Very prominent in the queer community to dehumanize men.
Because of trauma.
White men. No, not even, I don't even think it's necessarily because of trauma. I think for some people it is. But I think that for me it's not. I mean, I've had men say shit to me that's super fucked up, but like, I've had like men attack me and like do shit that's super fucked up, but it's never registered in my brain as trauma, right? Like trauma to me is like, I don't know, it's a totally different bag for me. Trauma is a different bag. Okay. And I think that's just because of, I think CPTSD and PTSD are getting conflated in my brain. Like I have CPTSD, so to me, long-term continuous things are trauma, whereas like one-time things are like maybe not.
Oh, that would be like acute trauma as opposed to
right. So like for me, and that's my own issue, but like I've noticed what you're talking about a lot in the last few years, and like what was a very eye-opening moment for me was I was very drunk at a party, and I was surrounded by my best friends. And one of my closest friends is a straight white man. I have multiple of them now, but like at the time he was like one of a few. And he said something, I don't remember what exactly the conversation was because I was fucking drunk as shit, but I said to him, oh, fucking men are the worst. And he was like, I am a man. And that hurts me. When you say that, you are talking about me. And I was like, no, I'm not. You're not like that. And he was like, I am a man. And I am a white man. And I am a straight white man. And you are talking about me. And I was like, And that was a real moment for me because he was really upset.
Mm-hmm.
He was really upset
Yeah.
and really hurt. And I had to take a couple days and think about that. Because I was like, I am not helping. I am not helping.
Yeah.
And I have another friend now who's, like having conversations with him while doing work on my basement and remodeling stuff. And, he winds up saying things to me like, I think you're the most like centrist, queer, lesbian, whatever the fuck you are that I've ever met. And I was like, that's really sad. That my giving you space to exist makes me a centrist. That is really sad. Damn. And he was like, I've got these people in my life who are like railing against everything and just my existence, and I can't say anything. I don't matter. And I was like, I am so sorry that I have contributed to that, because I know that I have. And not to you personally. I haven't said it to you personally. I've given you space to say anything you need to say to me. And some of it has been offensive, and I have allowed it, because you need space to express things and learn. And cancel culture does not do that. You want people to grow and change? You think canceling them fucking helps? Are you stupid?
It just reinforces them in the direction they were going in. Yeah.
No. Like, no.
At this point.
Do you honestly think that if the world on October 8th had come out and said, Hamas did some fucked up shit and we're taking them to court and we are going to arrest them and we are going to back you and yada, if the world had said that, do you really think that we would be where we are right now? Do you really think that 30,000 people would be dead right now? I don't. I don't at all. I think that the world is responsible as much as the Israeli government is for what's happening right now. For the fact that 30,000 people are dead, I think the world is very responsible.
I also agree with that.
Like, it's...
I think this is an entire world problem.
The fucking arrogance. The fucking arrogance.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. I have to say, my computer is getting low on battery. We have been talking for, guess how many hours?
I don't know.
It's 3.
Holy shit.
But
no wonder my cat's hungry. He's
yeah,
like,
your
I'm
cat is
fucking
like
starving.
Your cat is so like ready to be done with this.
He's like, Dad's about to have a fucking mental breakdown. Dad has already cried twice. We're done. We're done with this conversation.
Yeah.
We're fucking done.
This was really. I'm so relieved to be able to have a conversation with you about it that even can happen. And I really appreciate everything that you shared, because I've learned a lot from you, and I don't even know, I haven't honestly had a lot of spaces to have any kind of conversation about this topic outside of, I have a couple of friends, but really, like, I just appreciate that, because I know this is also something that's like actively really painful for you as well. And you've been a really good friend and person about it.
Thank you. You have too. I also, you would think that I would have lots of places to talk about this, but I really don't, because I don't know. I don't know if it's that I'm queer and most of my friends are queer and are sitting there going, you're a fucking genocide supporter, and don't want to say it to my face, which I think some of them are. But it's been really, really hard, and really... lonely is not even the right word. It's been very alienating and isolating and hard, because I'm just constantly having to explain myself, constantly having to be like, well, no, I don't think this, but I think this. I don't think this, but I think this, but I don't think this, and I don't think this. And it's, it's a lot. But you have, I mean, from the day we met, have been amazing about just not only giving me space, like, like people always talk about, oh, I just want a space to express myself and feel heard. And there's like a total difference between being able to express yourself and having someone sit there and go, yeah, that sounds hard. And having someone actually hear you and engage in a conversation with you about this thing that is very hard. And you have done the latter every time. And it's been invaluable to me. Not many people have done that. So I'm immensely grateful to you for much the same reasons.
Thank you for saying that. I'm really glad that we met and encountered each other.
Same.